Reading the Qur'an for someone who's passed away. Okay. Yeah. Well, the scholars generally, in terms of what can benefit the dead, there are some things which are clearly mentioned in very clear hadiths that a person can perform in order to benefit the dead, right? Giving of charity, performing an umrah, things of that nature. This is the view of many of the scholars, that what can benefit the dead is restricted only to what has been specifically mentioned in the Sunnah, right? This is the view of many of the scholars. However, there are other scholars also, and from them is Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah. They are of the view that other good deeds outside of what have been specifically mentioned can actually also be given by a believer to a deceased person, irrespective of who that deceased person is. He considers this to be from like a type of charity and whatever. So that's the view of Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah, that this is permissible to do so. And even though specific things have been mentioned in the Sunnah, does not mean that that's a restriction. That's just some examples of what can be the reward for which can be given, but other things can be given as well from the deeds of a believer which he wants to voluntarily give to a deceased person. However, we have to distinguish between the form this takes for a person of the Sunnah who's of that view, and innovated forms which are done by the people of innovation, right? So for example, if a person was to hold this view, and he's a person of the Sunnah, then he would, for example, maybe recite the Qur'an by himself, and say, "Oh Allah, this recitation of the Qur'an, please make the reward for my father, for my mother, for whatever." And he does it on his own, by himself, as this form here, if he holds that view which is being explained by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah and other scholars, then that's how it would be done. But as for what is done by the people of innovation and misguidance, where they say, right, we want 30 people to come and sit together on a Thursday evening, and we want every person to recite maybe Surah Yasin or one juz or something, so we have the whole Qur'an or whatever, and then they count the number of, and then then they serve the food, they bring the food, and they say, "Well, we've done 2,000 Yasins and 3,000 this and this, whatever. Please give all of this to so and so deceased person." No, this is a bid'ah. This is disobedience. This is misguidance. This is innovation. This is not acceptable to Allah Azza wa Jal, right? Because the form here is an innovated form, even though the individual actions are legitimate actions. Reciting the Qur'an, feeding someone food, these are good deeds. But the form in which you've put it together, the detail, does not exist in the Sunnah. The time that you specify, your Thursday or the 4th day or the 40th day after a person's died, right? A gathering on a Thursday or whatever day it might be, certain number of recitations of Surah Yasin or specific judge. This form is unknown. That's an innovation. That's misguidance, right? But anyway, those are the views of the scholars. So to answer your question, there are some scholars who do hold that view, that you can donate, so to speak, your good deeds to a deceased person. Though most of the scholars, they say, based upon the that whatever the Sunnah has specified that can be given, then like as we said, fasting for a deceased person, to make up his fasts, to give charity on behalf of a person, to do umrah on behalf of a person, these types of things, they are clearly mentioned in the Sunnah that they benefit the deceased person, right? And that's a view held by many scholars.